So Happy New Year!
Happy
a
New
little
Year.
bit late for it,
Yeah.
but it is 2026 now.
It's 2026.
We're just saying how it's kind of like off to a rough start.
Yeah, we've both had a bit
Yeah.
of a haggard is the word that you used. Haggard start to the year. I had a busted haircut. I'm trying to pull it off, so I think Doc is lying to me and telling me that I look good. But I had a bad haircut. I've had migraines all week.
That is rough.
What else happened to me? Those are kind of
You lost a kidney and then you found it.
Yeah, I did. I found my own organs on the black market.
And they were selling for surprisingly cheap.
So cheap, offensively cheap. But yeah, so we've both just been working a lot.
Yeah, everything's fine. Everything's fine.
Oh, good.
We're just working a whole lot.
We're just busy, and we both have a new common. We both work with children as our day jobs, which is really interesting. Yeah. We were just talking about that.
We should have an episode where we specifically talk about children's films.
I actually already have that as on my list of
nice.
Potential themes. I want to do one
because we could talk about movies that are made quote made for children, and we could also talk about movies that have prominent children characters.
Yeah.
So you have what the adults think of the kids in two different perspectives.
Yeah.
That could be good. Children, really sound off.
Children, what do we really think about them? Be honest.
But yeah,
it's funny.
We've been working a lot like that, and it's all good. Yeah, it's just a lot.
The last time we hung out, we said that this is the year of the silent grind.
Yep.
We're working, but nobody needs to know what we're working about. It's just who gives a fuck? It's nobody needs to know. Just focus on what you're doing.
I've told you a little bit. Well, we've told each other a little bit about
we talk to each other about what we're doing.
But it's kind of a secret, and I think that's good because you get to surprise people. We'll get to the episode in a bit. I just have questions about your filmmaking in a bit because I'm very secretive with my films when I make my own films.
Yes.
When we were doing our thesis graduation films from film school, my friends were all sharing each other work in progress edits. And I did not share a single edit. I did not let anyone watch a single frame until the very, very end when we had our showcase. That's when they most people saw my film.
Yeah.
Part of it is because we were working to the wire. We were editing right until the very last day when we had to
It's intense. Yeah.
Yeah, it's intense. And we had several editing teams doing different things. So it was quite intense, and the movie genuinely did not come together until a day before the deadline. So that's a reason. But another one is because I really kind of value the experience that I'm trying to sell.
Yeah, I think it just really taints it. I mean, there was the film that I was working on last year, I got to see an early cut of it, and then by the time the film was actually released, I was I don't think I can see this clearly because I've seen so many different iterations of it that the whole experience is kind of ruined because it's I've seen it when it was a mess, I've seen it when there was no VFX, I've seen it, and you're just oh, the experience is just a bit lost on me now.
Yeah.
So I do agree with you. You kind of want to preserve the magic of seeing it for the first time.
And it is much different to approach a project as a work in progress than something final. Because if you were, for example, if you or I to each other were to show each other a film as a work in progress, the whole point is to give feedback, to be okay, this works, I'm a little confused about that, I love that, this is unnecessary, etc., etc., etc. But when you see the film final, that's it.
Yeah.
You can, in your mind be oh, I would have done this or I would have said that, but the movie's done.
Yeah.
The movie's finished. And so often in the movies that we talk about or the movies that we see in cinemas, we just watch what ended up coming together.
Yeah.
And it's not like that. So yeah, I really kind of value secrecy, and I approach that, I have that same mentality with the projects that I'm working on this year. I'm they're going to be finished when they're finished. Yeah. Because I think I speak for you as well in this case. We're curating an experience. Something that we want people to live through and think through and feel through, and we don't want to
Yeah, you don't want to ruin it and
give
too much away. Yeah, and I think so much of just how people in this line of work operate is just a lot of people very insecure and really want to assert themselves, and so much of it's just like bragging all the time and like, I'm doing this and my screenplay's about this, and it's like nobody cares what the synopsis of your screenplay is. You haven't even written it. Like, just fucking write the thing, you know? And it's just like, I'm so sick of like just hearing people always, or like you go on Instagram and it's like, come support me like in this like short film I'm making, and they share like all the details and they film like all these behind the scenes like TikToks, and it's like weirdly just kind of like, it just kind of like bursts the bubble of the whole process. I do believe that the creative process should be private and secret, and it is kind of sacred, and like so many people feel the need to like share that with the whole world in order to like bring clout, and like I'm just like, I don't know, that makes me feel icky. I'm like, keep it to yourselves. Like,
let's get off social media, you guys. Like, it's over.
We're deleting Instagram. We're killing Elon Musk. We're killing Meta. We're killing Mark Zuckerberg.
We're all leaving that in 2025.
They're all cancelled. Yeah. Yes,
but anyway,
that was our airing our grievances session.
That's the end of the episode, you guys. Thank you for watching.
You can tell we're so old and like gripey. We're like, let me just sit here and whine about our work for a minute.
I was telling my coworker yesterday, he's in his 40s, I think, and he asked me if I have anything exciting this weekend, and I was like, I'll tell you what. I'm gonna sit down on the couch and I'm not gonna get up. That's what I'm gonna do.
It really is. Yeah, it is just the small moments. It's getting to go to bed at a reasonable hour.
Yeah,
that's what lights the fire. That's what
keeps
the heart alive.
I could really sit here for like another 40 minutes asking you what time you go to bed, but maybe we should
save that for off camera, like detailed bedtime routine.
Maybe we should get on the podcast.
Yeah, let's talk about the stuff.
So we mentioned leaving 2025 in the past, and the theme for this week is about the past. We are going back 20 years. 20 years. That's crazy.
Yeah.
To 2006.
How old were you in 2006?
I was 8 when the year started.
Okay.
You?
7.
So you're just about in the old century. You're just about acceptable.
Yeah.
Everyone from the 2000s onwards, sorry.
Exactly.
It's over.
Yeah, no, people born after the year 2000
in the new millennium. Yeah, I would never.
Yeah, like some of the kids that I'm working with, like they were born in like 2015. Like, how dare you?
Gross.
Why?
The theme of today's episode is 2006, and we didn't really like approach it with any specific agenda. We were just like films that either reflect the attitudes of 2006, films that were made in 2006, or films that were set in 2006.
Yeah. Bit of an experiment. Very exciting.
Yeah, very exciting. I think it's going to be an interesting chat. I have a lot to say and a lot of questions to ask. Should I go first? Or should
Please go first. Yeah.
Let me grab my notes.
Oh, yeah. Just come very prepared today.
Yeah. Weirdly, I mean, not all that much, but because of the other ones.
Yeah, of course.
Oh my god, bro. I have so much to say.
Hell yeah.
Cool. So the movie that I chose today is Alejandro González Iñárritu's Babel. Babel.
Baby Bell.
It is a movie... Oh, my timer. We're completely avoiding protocol today.
Carried away.
We're going crazy.
Yeah. Off the rails.
How much did we say? 7 minutes?
7 minutes?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the movie, Babel, 2006, and it is a very good movie. It's a very celebrated movie. And before I get into like all of the other context and everything, very quick rundown of the story. It is a long film because it comprises several different stories. It has, I think, 5 or 6 different settings. It has the US, Mexico, Japan, Morocco. That's it. That's 4.
Yeah.
And it has different stories.
Mexico. Did you say Mexico?
US, Japan, Mexico, Morocco.
Oh, yes, you did.
4.
Okay, yeah.
It has many different stories between all these, but they are all connected. That's what we call hyperlink cinema, and I have an essay all about that. It's called Contagion. It's on the movie Contagion. You should go watch it on my channel.
Great essay.
Thank you. Good essay. Have you seen Contagion?
No, I actually haven't.
No. We maybe we should talk about it sometime. It's a good movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's a hyperlink movie, but usually hyperlink movies that have like all these different stories and these different plots and different characters kind of like rely on coincidence and the nature of coincidence. Almost like I haven't seen that movie, but like a sliding doors moment to be like, how different would it have been if Emily hadn't been there that day, for example? How things would have unraveled if such and such happened in a slightly different way. Whereas this one, it's more about like watching one specific incident and then the ripples that it has kind of like all over the place. But I'll get back to that in a second. So the story follows... it's even hard to say like who's the main character, right? Because they're all the main character of their own story.
Yeah.
But the basic plot is that during a trip to Morocco, Kate Blanchett, who's married to Brad Pitt, gets shot. They're on a bus and she randomly gets shot. And they try to get her out to the US and it becomes this like big international like media thing. And that's their struggle. Then on the US, they have their kids because they're both American, and they have their kids, and their kids actually get like taken to Mexico by their nanny because she needs to attend her son's wedding and she can't leave the kids anywhere, so she takes them with them, and then trouble arises when they're trying to cross back because they only go there for the night, right? So they try to cross back later, and they get into trouble. Then in Morocco, where I'll get back to that in the end. Then Tokyo, Japan, there's this girl who is deaf, played by Rinko Kikuchi. She learned sign language for that role. Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
She won something. She won something.
There we go.
I think, she was... that's one of the aspects of the films that's most celebrated, her performance.
Interesting.
Yeah,
interesting.
Because she's not deaf, IRL.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, let me fact check myself. I'll do it in a few minutes because I'm running out of time. But I maybe put a pin on that. I'll get back to that.
Wow.
But she plays a deaf girl, and seemingly she has no connection to anything else. Seemingly. Yeah. Then finally, in Morocco, there is two kids whose dad they live in a farm, and whose dad buys a rifle to scare the coyotes away, and they're like daring each other. To kind of like shoot, and the older kid who thinks he should be like the leader of the pack is really bad at shooting. They escalate things and they end up shooting Kate Blanchett, and in their minds killing her. So it's like a whole thing, and it all connects to everything. Yeah. But one of the reasons I said I would get back to the Japanese girl's story later is because one of the kind of like narratives that the movie promotes is that like history isn't like a linear thing. It's always like an endless chain going backwards, right? So the reason Kate Blanchett got shot is because the kids were daring each other. The reason the kids were daring each other is because they had the rifle. The reason the dad had the rifle is because the Japanese girl's dad, he went on a hunting trip and he ended up gifting the rifle to that guy, the dad of the father of the two Moroccan children. So everything just like, there's like one step behind, and there is no inciting incident to life. I guess in the movie, the shooting is, right?
The gun is the inciting incident.
Yeah. But in the analogy of like life, everything, there's always something behind. And the reason why the kids, the Kate Blanchett and Brad Pitt's children have a hard time and go through this traumatic border crossing experience is because something that happened all over across the world that has nothing to do with them. Yeah. And it's all like, very wild, and really like this, wide spanning, globe-trodden anxiety trip.
Yeah, it's just this like whole rippling butterfly wing effect across the world.
And it's called Babel because it's kind of like, it kind of explores also, I think the Rinko Kikuchi's character being deaf-mute is interesting in this regard because it explores how people have a lot of ways to talk to each other, but they have very few ways of understanding each other. So there's like the sign language, there's all the different languages, but people just are unable to connect, unable to see eye to eye. And yeah, I think it's really good. I think it's really well acted. I have a few more things to get into, but we can do that later. I guess I will say this movie is part of a trilogy. It's the Death trilogy, I believe, all by Iñárritu. He directed Birdman, The Revenant. Yep. Yeah, I think those are like his most beautiful. Yeah. Those are like his most famous films. Once he's like started going international. But this trilogy is like the third of a trilogy that started in Mexico, with Amores Perros and 21 Grams, and then finally Babel. So yeah, cool. That's about my time. Do you want to say anything before we go into yours?
No, because I have lots to say.
Yeah.
But not on what you've just said.
Yeah.
Well, yes, but like in more detail.
We can talk about it later.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Mm-hmm. So I guess we kind of can hop over to yours.
Over to my side of the pond. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued as to this choice.
Yes.
But I'm gonna let you get into it. Yeah. And I think for the first time, I'm probably not gonna interrupt because I really want to hear.
We'll see about that.
Yeah, you're like, sure, buddy.
I'll believe it when I see it.
All right, cool. Ready?
Go.
Andiamo.
Great. So the film I chose is Inland Empire, directed by the late and great David Lynch, of course. Directed in 2006. Plot summary of the film, if I can try and describe it, because it's famously very hard to describe. It's a very experimental, like non-linear film. A lot of it was improvised. A lot of they were writing scenes on the day, and they were just kind of exploring as they were filming it. But it stars Laura Dern and Justin Theroux, and Laura Dern plays this woman that is an actor. She's married to this very powerful Polish man that everybody kind of fears. And at the beginning of the film, she kind of learns that she's got this role in this film that she really, really wants to take part in. And she's acting across Justin Theroux, who plays this other actor, and her co-star. And the film is like 3 hours long, and it's basically just this very strange odyssey as... I hate the phrase like fiction and reality start to blur, because that's so vague, and especially in this sense, because that's kind of it, but not really it at all. But essentially there are multiple different storylines happening where there are lots of different women that are all in trouble, shall we say. And that was the tagline for the film. Whenever David Lynch was asked about the film and what it meant, he would just say, it's just about a woman in trouble. And that's all he would say. Ooh. But it's very interesting, because that is... very, very crucial to what this film is exploring and what it's about. And yeah, it's just like, it's really, really a strange film, and it's one that takes you a little while to get on board with, or at least the first like hour of the film is fairly sensical, it's fairly like linear, and you kind of understand what's happening. And then there's quite a specific moment, and then suddenly everything descends into like complete melted kind of like chaos. You have no idea what one thing is and what other thing isn't, but they're all kind of the same but also not. They're all kind of connected, but you don't know how, and it's that kind of very Lynchian experience. Some people say this is the most like Lynchian film that he ever made, and yeah, I think it's very interesting. I think it's very interesting in how they marketed the film. I think it kind of changed Hollywood marketing for the worse, I would say. So the whole thing of like people campaigning for Oscars kind of started around this time, because famously to promote Laura Dern Laura Dern was nominated for Best Leading Actress at the Oscars, and for her performance in Inland Empire. And to promote this, David Lynch famously sat in a director's chair on like Sunset Boulevard or something with a cow next to him, and then people could just go up to him and ask him questions about the film, and it was kind of like a promotional gag to promote the film and her performance. And then from that point on, I think it was Harvey Weinstein, RIP, who then kind of latched onto this idea of like, how can we promote people to win Oscars? Like, how can we use like marketing gags and goofs to like make people win awards? And then famously after that, it was Gwyneth Paltrow that won the Oscar for Shakespeare in Love, which was very controversial because people think that Harvey Weinstein, he kind of like paid and kind of promoted the film in a very different way to get her to win that award. Many people don't think it was deserved. The film wasn't that great, but he like really lobbied for her to win the Oscar so that they could sell the film. So people would be like, oh, Oscar-winning performance, go watch Shakespeare in Love. Mm-hmm. And he like really lobbied and like emailed people and set up all these like marketing things. So anyway, there's that side of it, which I find really interesting, kind of like how it's altered marketing in Hollywood and how that's just taken a whole new level of ridiculousness these days. But as a film, very interesting, multiple timelines, very much like all lives bleeding into one, like no life is separate from the other. Like, we all affect each other's experiences. But in this film, it's particularly in regards to womanhood and the intertangled, like, mess that is womanhood, and how all these women are living these experiences in different timelines. Some of them are real, some of them exist in, like, film, some of them exist in plays that happened hundreds of years ago, but they all affect and, like, are kind of, like, empathetically connected in their experiences. And I love it. The more I rewatch it, the more I'm, like, just kind of obsessed with this film. I think it's maybe my favourite of Lynch's.
Cool.
So yeah, that's that. We can get to talking.
Oh my god, I can talk.
Yeah.
I was physically holding myself back. I was like, "Don't talk, bro. No."
You did a really good job. Well done.
Okay, interesting. I didn't know most of all that you said. That's interesting. Yeah. Why do you think it's called Inland Empire?
Oh, I do know this. It's because Laura Dern, who was having a conversation with Laura Dern, and
Laura Dern was having a conversation with Laura Dern.
Sorry, Laura Dern was having a conversation with David Lynch, and she was
in this movie, bro,
I know, sure. You could believe it. She was having a conversation with him, and she was talking about her boyfriend, and David was like, "Oh, where's he from?" And she was like, "Oh, he's from the Inland Empire," because Inland Empire is a nickname for a very specific area of Los Angeles. And then David Lynch, he described it as like, "Oh, I just zoned out of everything that Laura was saying." So I was like, Inland Empire, that's really interesting. And then he was like, "That's going to be the name of my next film." And it's just like a nickname for Los Angeles. So that's where it came from.
Oh, it makes sense. Even though LA does have a beach.
Yes.
LA is not inland.
No.
But I guess some part of LA.
There's a specific part. I don't know where it is. I want to say it's like, I can't even remember.
Yeah. I do think LA has a beach. Area. Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but like...
No, LA does have a beach.
Yeah. For a minute there, I was like, wait,
where is it?
Am I the fool? What's going on? I guess what you were saying there relates a little bit to Babel, how we all... our stories like all kind of like mingle with each other. Our experience here informs someone else's experience over there.
100%.
And yeah, that's cool.
Very cool.
Before we kind of like start... kind of getting into it, I have to say, I don't think I like David Lynch.
What?
Yeah, I don't dislike him, and it's not like I have like a visceral experience like to use it as an example, when we were watching Twilight, and I was like, I don't understand how anyone could like this.
Yeah.
I don't feel that way about Lynch. I can see it, and I'm like, oh, I can see why someone would find this compelling. I can see it. But like this movie, it just like washed over me, bro.
Really?
I have no idea what's going on.
Wow.
And not necessarily in a way that was engaging to me.
How many times have you seen it too?
No, just one.
Just one.
Just for this.
Interesting.
I hadn't seen it before.
Yeah.
And I think I would be potentially open to watching it again, but maybe under the guidance of someone like you who could like, tell me more about it, right? As we'd be going, because like watching it felt very like self-indulgent in a way that I was like, oh, I like you're talking your own language. Like, I don't know.
It is interesting because I do get what you mean. Like, I think the first time you watch it, you are like, what the hell is happening? But I think it is a film that's made to be rewatched.
Yeah.
Because there are so many details that you miss on the first time round, and I feel like the more you watch it, you kind of unlock what's kind of happening. But I do get the self-indulgent thing as well, because David Lynch said that his like ideal dream form of filmmaking would be to plug something into his brain that just projects images that happen while he's sleeping. And like so much of his films, it does feel like that kind of like, it does feel like something that's happening in your brain at night that like cannot be explained or
even
like,
normal conversations,
or
well, quote normal conversations, have this like surreal tinge to it. But I've tried watching Lynch a few times, and it's never really connected. And I think it's just like his neurodivergence is not compatible with mine. I think it just comes down to that, because I don't think he's bad. Or overrated or anything like that. I just think he's not for me.
Yeah, and that's really fair.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I would much rather Nolan. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Go away.
No, that's a joke. For legal purposes, my lawyer has instructed me.
No, it is a joke for the purpose of our friendship. Others.
But yeah, but so like watching the movie, I was like, I don't know what's going on. I don't understand this, and I also, I'm okay with not knowing what's going on, so long as I can see the point. And then at the end of the movie, I was like, I do not see the point.
Right,
so I felt very unprepared for this. So I did like my research and stuff. And what I'm very like down to talk about, because I was like kind of like grabbing onto, was all the technical filmmaking aspects of the movie. For example, one of the things I found out, which makes sense with what you were saying about rewatching the movie, is that, as you said, they were assembling the film as they were shooting, and they were improvising and writing scenes, all that. But also when they were editing, it was edited over many years. And I wonder when it was shot, because it was released in 2006, but I wonder when it was shot, because it took him many years to finish it. And obviously during that time he was like watching it and rewatching it and rewatching it. So like I don't doubt for a second. I hate calling things pretentious, because like we all aspire to be more than, you know, like to be more than our base impulses. So when someone calls something pretentious, I'm like, yeah, it better be. So I hate to say that, like to call it that way. I don't think it's that.
No.
And I think it makes perfect sense in his head. It just, to me, didn't like translate, at least on the first watch. But I can see why. You know, like learning all about this stuff, I'm like, interesting.
That's why I like his style so much, because I feel like everybody is so obsessed over finding like concrete analysis and definitions and like the right and wrong way to react to a piece of art, or like whatever it is. And like even these days, like anytime a film comes out, there's just like endless online discourse about like what is the right interpretation of it, what isn't, like this person's wrong, this person's right, and it's just so boring to me. I really hate when people look at anything from such like a one-sided lens. And I love that his work, it's created with that intent. It's created like you shouldn't understand it, you should just feel it, and however you respond to it, that's what it means, you know. And he was like, he would have hated the people that are like on YouTube, like, explaining, breaking down in the tempo. What does it really mean? Like, just let it be like its own like free-forming kind of lucid thing. And I think, I don't know, that's how I like to engage with films, and like when I make more films, that's how I would hope people would engage with what I make, because I don't like to try and explain his work, because I think it just goes against like his entire philosophy. And I do just love David Lynch.
Saying that, what does the movie mean? No, I'm teasing.
I mean, I can tell you what it means to me.
But before that, just because it's something you mentioned, and I do want to know what the film means to you, but just because you mentioned, and we were talking about like him rewatching the movie and like through all these years, I am curious. I don't think we'll ever find out, but I am curious to see like, what does Laura Dern think the movie is about? What does Justin Theroux think the movie is about? The people who were there filming, but not necessarily editing, or the other way around. I wonder what they think the movie is. I just find it fascinating. Well,
I did do some research. Laura Dern said that it was like the most confusing experience of her life, because she had absolutely no idea what was happening for the entire shoot. And she was fully just placing all her trust and faith in David, and being like, I'll do what you need me to do, but like, I don't understand it. And she said it was a really difficult character to grasp a hold of, obviously, because it's like ever changing and it's so unpredictable.
And the whole point is that she is losing her personhood.
Yeah, she's losing herself, and I think to play that is so difficult, and she should have won an Oscar for it. Like, I mean, I know people like these awards don't really mean that much anymore, but like when you see what she does and what she puts herself through, and the ambiguity of that, and to be able to find emotion with conviction within the ambiguity, you know, you still feel such intensity from her, and feel as if there is this like knowingness of she's just like in that scene, and she's so, like detached and in the other places. But she said it was incredibly confusing and quite difficult.
Shout out to Miss Laura Dern.
Shout out to Laura Dern.
She's an incredible actor.
She's a lovely lady. I'd love to like be her friend. She seems so nice.
I was gonna ask, if you were to interview her, what would you ask? Would you be like, could you be my friend?
Yeah.
Do you want to get a coffee?
Cut the bullshit. Let's be friends.
Cool. Anyway, so that aside, I do want to know what you think the movie is about, or like any reflections, insights that you have about the movie.
I mean, to me, the movie is about one woman who is journeying through multiple different lives of other women, and particularly how women are kind of like eaten up and destroyed by Hollywood, and they're kind of like, their lives are just kind of like consumed, and then they're discarded. And it's kind of like her starting off, and she's in this great place, she's got this role in this film that she's really excited about, but then slowly she realizes that she means nothing to the people around her, and she's just being like used and eaten up by all these like outside forces, and journeying through these different definitions of womanhood and meeting all these other women that have been subject to the same narrative that has been like imposed upon them. So she meets the woman from the original Polish play, and then she becomes the character that she's playing. And then she meets all these other like actors that have kind of failed and not made it in Hollywood because they've been abused by that system.
I was wondering who they were.
Yeah, and they're all like, they all seem to be like failed actors or people that were once actors and then didn't quite like get where they wanted to go.
Which in LA.
Yeah, very common. Yeah, they're just kind of... And I mean, at the beginning of the film, there's this line from this girl on the radio, and she's like, Hollywood, where dreams make stars and stars make dreams, you know? And it's just kind of this like weird like cycle where it just like chews you up and churns you out and then, you know, spits you away. And then the ending to me is so beautiful because it's kind of... like she's journeyed through all these definitions of womanhood, and she's journeyed through all these experiences and realized how they're all one and the same in the way that they're treated. And then she's free because she's been through all the dark. And the ending is so wonderful. It's got Cinnamon by Nina Simone playing, and it's all these women that have been throughout the whole film. They're all in one room, and they're all just dancing together, and they're all finally free. And
they look at each other,
and they all just and they just are all kind of like connected. And it's kind of like we've all been through all of this together, all this darkness and all these cycles, and we've all been kind of like abused by these systems and seen as like things and objects that can be possessed and then thrown away. But they all come out the light, you know, they find the light at the end of it, and they're all in the same room, and they're all dancing to the same song, and all the animals are there, and they're all free, and they're out of their cages, because there's all these discussions of animals throughout the film, making weird statements about like dogs and rabbits and all these kinds of things.
There's like a sitcom situation with rabbits, and how they use like dolls and like
so I love that. Like the ending to
That's
me.
cool.
Like,
I'm having an experience right now, like when I was describing why I find Goon to be so compelling, that you were saying like, I can see it when you describe it.
Yeah.
I'm having the same now. I'm like, when I was watching it, I wasn't getting much, but now listening to you speak, I was like, oh, that is quite cool. You know, like that is quite, I'm glad that this movie exists as it does out there. So yeah, I think that is quite cool. I think from now on, if I ever want to like watch some David Lynch, I'm gonna need like a Lynch Sherpa. I'm gonna be like, I need someone to take my hand and guide me through.
It'd be so fun to watch together. We really should do that.
I'd be down.
Just like make an evening of it, just like 3 hours of like, what the hell is going on? It's so great.
Because I love when films feel like they're melting. That's the only way I can describe it, you know? And sometimes it's because weird things start happening and like the logic suddenly goes out the window, or suddenly it's because the anxiety of the situation just like takes over or something. Because I love that stuff.
Yeah, you want something that unpicks and sheds on itself. Like I hate when you come out of a film and you're like, I'm not going to think about this anymore because it feels like it's all presented on the surface. And like you're just like, okay, it's
I must have already told you this. I have a term for those movies. It's called an airplane movie. Where you watch a movie on a plane and it is perfectly serviceable.
Yeah.
You know, it keeps you distracted for a couple of hours.
Just blunt entertainment.
And then
nothing, no frills.
You step out the door and it's gone.
That's it.
Yeah. Examples for that of that for me are The Menu. What other one do you have?
Honestly, Marty Supreme for me. I was like, okay.
I haven't seen it, but
great. Yeah, it's just like entertaining. Like it just hits all the like the beats in the right places. But I'm never gonna think more about it. You know, like there's nothing where I'm like, ooh, let me
think on this a bit more.
Let me stew on that. But like something like Inland Empire, that to me is
Opposite.
like the greatest gift that somebody could give is something for you to like puzzle over. Something that really dwells on your mind. Like you just don't want to be obvious in any way. And I think David Lynch was never obvious. He never went for the easy target. He always went for the most obscure, the most like perplexing subject matter. And people would just be stewing on his films for the rest of the length of time.
And what a gift! That's so cool. Yeah,
such a gift. But yeah, let's talk about Babel.
Yes, let's talk about Babel.
Babel.
So I was researching it and I came across a review of it, and the movie was called Dense and Emotionally Ambitious, and I have been described that way also.
Wow.
But it's very cool. I wanted to ask, do you like Iñárritu?
I do. I don't think I'm I don't find him to be a very consistent filmmaker.
I see that, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I find that
not only in quality, but also like tone and like...
Yeah. And that doesn't always, like, that's not always a bad thing. Like, sometimes
Sure.
people, you know, someone's kind of scattered. But sometimes I find he can go for things that are just, like, kind of a bit manipulative, you know, where it's like, okay, sure, we're going to be crying at this because it's about the most, like, horrible thing that could ever happen to a person, and it just feels a bit, like, easy, you know?
Yeah.
But there are films of his that I really like, and then other films where I'm like, okay, like,
he made a film that is, like, in my top 5 films of all time. And I would have it on my Letterboxd top 4, but I forgot my password. So, rip to my Letterboxd. That's
why you haven't been liking my reviews. Damn
yeah, dude, 100%. Do you think I follow anyone else?
Yeah.
Bro, absolutely not. Actually, I do think I follow our friend Tava.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully a friend of the channel, bro. Tava.
Shout out.
Get on it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I just, like, look at your reviews and I'm like, good.
Yeah, thank you.
But I haven't been on forever. But I don't want to say which movie, just because maybe it shows up
yeah,
at some point. I really want
to
to bring it.
Yeah.
But yeah. So for now, I'll say, this movie Babel was kind of like a formative movie for me because when I was starting to get into film, I was thinking very much like looking at other Mexican directors and being like, what have they done? And it's interesting because in many ways this is kind of the other side of the coin to Inland Empire, in the sense that, like, this is very much trying to be a prestige film. You know, like, the acting is a certain way, the tone is a certain way, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think there's anything bad at all. I really like this film, but it's not, like, countercultural in any way. It's punk in how it, like, presents all these things, and it talks a lot about female sexuality, which I found very interesting. But it's very much like trying to appeal to, like, artistic Hollywood standards.
It's a little bit Oscar baity.
Yeah. I don't know how much Oscar bait was a thing in 2006.
Yeah.
Because I know, like, in the 2010s.
Well, that's the thing.
My God.
I think Oscar bait is kind of an interesting theme between the two of them. Yeah, it does feel like people were more, like, gunning for these awards and this type of recognition. Oscar baity, it can be seen in the way that the kind of thematic language of Babel, but also in the way that, you know, Inland Empire was, like, packaged and sold, and other films at that time. So that's an interesting crossover.
He won a Cannes Best Director.
He won a Cannes?
Yeah.
Can of baked beans.
Can of baked beans, bro. But, okay, talking about the movie, like, more on its own terms and kind of, like, what it's trying to do. I think this movie is very emblematic of 2006 in the sense that I think the kind of, like, I've heard it been described nowadays that the kind of, like, dominating emotion of our time is anxiety. Would you agree, first of all?
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
We're all anxious all the time.
Yeah.
We have a lot of reasons to be anxious. Yeah. And I feel like this kind of, like, started around the 2000s, kind of, like, started ramping up in a way. And I feel like this movie is about that because in many ways, I feel like this movie is about globalization? Anxiety. About the anxiety of, like, the entire human construct becoming one. In part of it, in the sense that, like, it's literally about the actions of someone else affecting your life drastically.
Yeah.
You know, like, a kid was dared by his brother, to use this as an example, right? A kid was dared by his brother to shoot, and across the world, a woman got deported because of the fallout. You know, so, like, it's very much about the, like, anxiety of people, like, you know, coming into each other's lives tangentially and stuff, which I find it also you see that kind of, like, in the fear or, you know, the commentary that it makes on media, right? Because Kate Blanchett gets shot and she can't be evacuated right away because it becomes a huge media thing because the US immediately labels it as an act of terrorism.
Attack,
and then Morocco's like, no, what do you mean? So it becomes, like, a huge media. So there's, like, the whole commentary on media, and then there's also the commentary on borders, not only from that case itself of Kate Blanchett not being able to receive medical attention because of international policy, but also the Mexican and US border, kind of, like, the whole narrative about that. and how the woman becomes a criminal over something that she really did not do at all. You know, when they're crossing back, the police are kind of like questioning them, and they don't really believe them. And her son, who's driving the car, kind of like freaks out and drives off, and then suddenly she's a criminal and she gets deported, and like her whole life is finished. So, well, not finished, but
Yeah.
the entire 16 years that she was in the US working is all like just
Wiped
gone
out.
in an instant. So there's like this anxiety of all of like international policy and the world that we live in, and a kind of like a global interconnected world, because it's so good for us. Well, I don't know if it's so good, but it's in a way a good thing for us to be connected to each other, because we can, I can find out if Rinko Kikuchi is actually deaf. I can just Google that, and there I have it. But then on the other hand, it does like invite that suddenly the whole world is in. And weirdly, I feel like cancel culture is almost like a byproduct of this globalization, right? Because if suddenly everyone has a voice, like they do in social media, and everyone can be invested in everyone else's story, suddenly these narratives and kind of social movements become being much more kind of like prominent, the way that we kind of like connect and influence each other's lives. So I find it very interesting, and it's like a proto 2010s kind of like situation. So I find it very interesting, and it was also released during like post 9/11 tensions, so that was rough. So there's that, which I had wrote down.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know if you have anything to say about that before I can move on to something else that both movies share.
No, you go first and then I'll...
Yeah. It's nothing to do with all this. I just wanted to talk about kind of my thoughts about the movie. But this is something else entirely. Literally nothing to do with what I just said. But I find it very interesting that both films have scenes, which are admittedly small scenes. They're not like the focus of the movie or anything. But where women are like exposing themselves to each other as an act of like sexual ownership. Right? So the main like frustration of the Japanese girl is that she's deaf, and because of that, people treat her very differently. There's this heartbreaking scene where they're at like an arcade, and there's this boy that she's like making eyes with, and they're flirting, and he goes up to them. At first, he tries talking to them, doesn't understand that they're deaf, and when they turn around and explain that they're deaf, and then not even ask him to sign, just to speak slower, he just like completely like shuts down, and he's like, bye. And oh my god, bro, heartbreaking, poor girl.
Yeah, really rough.
And obviously she's like a teenager, so like sex is on her mind to some extent, and she has this frustration that she sees it as like her body as like a burden on herself, and like her whole story arc is about sexual awakening and control over her own sexuality and her own narrative that way. And part of it is to kind of like show the world, sometimes against its will, that she's just a girl, that she's fine, that she's like sexually willing and available and enjoying and valid as anyone else. She does go over the top a couple of times. She does kiss her dentist while she's, doing stuff in her mouth.
Very uncomfortable scene.
She does, yeah.
Very uncomfortable.
She gets, he responds the right way by being
I was so worried he was going to go, and I was like, oh god,
There's another scene where it almost comes close, where she invites a detective over, because they're, the whole rifle thing. They're investigating it, and she has a crush on him, and she invites him over, and she gets naked for him, and he also responds the right way by first saying no, but then also like by staying and offering a sympathetic ear and like validating her feelings and her experience without putting himself like in that situation. So like exactly, without shaming her, but also without taking advantage of her. So like, good job for those guys. good job on you guys. But it's like a whole journey that she goes on, right? But there's this scene where she keeps flashing people, and she at first she flashes her friend as like a look what I did, look what I'm gonna do, and they both find it so hilarious and they love it. And there's a scene like that in Inland Empire. One of the other actors turns to her and she's like, look at my boobs. Yeah. And the other one goes like, nice.
She's like, real nice. Yeah.
And I'm like, that's totally how girls
And then they all dance. That's what the girl is
doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And weirdly, it's a small thing, right? It's not necessarily the whole crux of the film, but I find it interesting that both films like address contemporary female sexuality in that way.
Yeah.
And I was like, cool.
They do. It's something that really links the two films together, and I think has become a more common way that we, or maybe less common way actually, that we look at the world, is the idea that pain is the only thing that really brings us together, because the one thing that all humans can relate to is pain and like suffering in some way. Everybody has experienced pain at whatever level or degree that is, and in Babel it's kind of showing how some people grow closer through their pain and some people are pushed further apart. I think it's really interesting that Cate Blanchett and Brad Pitt's character, they've been through this enormous pain of losing a child at the beginning of the film, and there's like a lot of friction, tension in their marriage, and they're not really doing too well. And the reason they go on this holiday is to try and like spend time with each other and kind of reconcile. And then through Cate Blanchett getting shot, they actually managed to get like back together again and kind of like heal and like be honest with each other for the first time. There's this like wonderful scene where Cate Blanchett like needs to piss, and then he's like holding her up and like holding this like pan so she can pee, and then they start like kissing while she's peeing, and it's so sad. There's just like blood coming out of her neck, and she's just so like busted. Like,
she's high as fuck.
She's like so high. But it's like a really sweet tender moment of them like in this like moment of vulnerability, like that's what they need to connect together. And I think it's interesting the way that each narrative in the film kind of shows how pain can either bring apart or kind of completely, if people don't see the humanity behind the pain, then they won't draw together. But if they do, like with the girl, that moment with the detective, she's clearly in a lot of pain in her life. She doesn't feel seen, she doesn't feel desired, she doesn't feel heard. And in that moment where she tries to initiate like a sexual encounter with him, instead of like lashing out or being like angry or judgmental, he recognizes that pain and he uses that to like repair or like help prompt, like a bit of a catharsis for her, where she kind of realizes that this isn't like right, and not the right way to view intimacy, really. She kind of sees that there's a bit more to it.
Which I think is also very normal for teenagers. I remember when I was her age and I wanted to lose my virginity, it was like a task to be done. Right? It was like I need to get this done before I'm so old, or like before I get to a certain milestone in life or whatever. And looking back in hindsight, I was like, that was nothing, so dude. Like that was,
I know.
Like it made for a good story, but I wish that it had been a bit more meaningful.
Yeah, I know. I remember the same thing. I remember being at a certain age in high school and everyone was like, we need to bang before we go to university.
dude.
This is so stressful. And I was just like not in a place where I was like ready to do that. And I remember just feeling so stressed by like all my friends. It felt like every week they were like, I did it. And I was like, oh my God, I'm such a freak. So yeah, you do really feel for her, because you do feel, at that age you do feel like it is like a rejection by like society if you haven't done it.
And also kind of like a self-rejection, right? Because you want to do those things because you want to be seen as an adult, but you also want to validate it to yourself.
Yeah,
like, I can do adult things.
I'm worthy of that.
And if you can't see like yourself like that through that lens, it can be tough.
Yeah, definitely.
But I find that interesting. But wait, you said something that I was like, I want to pick up on that. Let me see if I can remember real quick.
Was he talking about pain?
Oh yes, thank you. Yeah. We were talking about pain. And Cate Blanchett. Okay, so before I get into that, we were talking about Cate Blanchett, and I think her story is really interesting because I think in a weird way, her whole story arc is about like letting go control of the body, of like surrendering to like higher power and stuff, because she's like very like, what do they call those people who are like afraid of germs? Like,
she's very type A. She's like kind of germophobic.
Yeah, she's got like
with a hypochondriac.
Like a hypochondriac. Yeah. She's always got like the antibacterial gel, and she
gets a Coke with ice, and she's like, get that out of
here. You don't know what that ice was made from.
Yeah,
So like it's like that, and like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna use like very rough, coarse language, but like her body gets penetrated by a bullet, and I'm not done, and I'm not done, and I'm not done. So like her body gets literally like torn
apart
with a hole, with I made a hole. Then she loses agency over herself.
Yeah.
For example, she can't piss.
Yeah.
She needs help to like even walk to get from one place to another.
She gets stitches without.
She gets stitches without
without giving her consent.
Without consent, without anesthesia.
Yeah.
Like
they're just like, you need this or you will die. Like and they just go like in blunt with like a needle, and it's
it's rough, bro. It's rough. And she acts so good though. Oh my god.
Yeah, I had to not watch.
And then she also like, she doesn't strike me as someone who would do drugs for fun. And one of the caretakers for her, when Brad Pitt, he has to make a phone call, goes away and leaves her with this older woman, and he's like, put pressure on her, do not stop. And as soon as he goes, she abandons that task, makes sure that the kids who are staring at her go away to give her some sense of privacy. So like in some way she is looking out for her like emotional, internal well-being, right? And Cate Blanchett's character doesn't strike me as someone who would do drugs for fun. And then she brings out this, we don't know what it is. I suspect some sort of like opium like situation. And gives it to her, and she smokes it, and she like feels relief. Like she allows in this substance from outside. So like I feel like it's very interesting in a way that like her whole narrative is about letting go control of the body, and kind of like letting the universe be. And I just find that very interesting. I think that's so cool and weird. And obviously the message has to be balanced in real life with like taking care of yourself, right? But you can take care of yourself every day of your life. You could you could die from a random bullet wound. I come from a family of doctors, and I see people like being so obsessive over their bodies and taking care of them. And really, it doesn't make that much of a difference.
Yeah, we're all just pieces of flesh. Yeah.
So I find that very interesting. But anyway, going to what you were saying about joy, I find it very interesting because... about pain. Because I find it very interesting that we also can all connect about joy. All of us have felt joy at some point in our lives. Yeah. But what's interesting is envy. Because joy can spark envy, and that can separate people, right? So like... I mean, we were talking about this at the beginning of the episode. It's something we talk about. Like, if we weren't that close and you came up to me and you were like, oh my god, I'm working on this film and I got like $1 billion to make it, and like it's my own script and I get to direct and I also get to edit, and it's like Oscar like contender like even before it's been shot, and like it's so good. And I know what it feels like to make a film or to be excited about a project. So like in a way I can feel like the joy, connect with the joy that you're experiencing. But then I can also like, that can be impeded by the envy of it being like, but that's not me. It should have been me. Or like, why am I not worthy of that achievement that my friend has made? So there's that, but we're not envious about pain. If you told me I went on a bus road and I got shot, I'm not gonna be like, it should have been me.
Right. Yeah.
Which I find it very interesting about kind of like our societal values that as you said, we find it easier to connect over pain. And I don't think it's entirely because of envy, but I think it's a big.
I think now it's a very big factor, because I think nowadays like people are so much more anxious and feel less secure in themselves, and it's harder to be successful. It's harder to like find a job. It's harder to do basic things like, you know, to buy a house. It's harder to date. Everything, like all the infrastructures of our world have made it harder to be happy or just to be fulfilled.
To save money.
Of that, so because of that, like when people do find themselves like doing great things, you will notice that a lot of people won't react with like 100% joy for you. You know, I don't know, it's weird. I have some friends where like, they're my friends, but I know that if I feel good about something, I won't tell them about it, because I know that they react with 90% jealousy or like that kind of happiness where it's like, oh, I'm really happy for you, but you can tell like you really don't, you're really not happy. And I do agree with you. I do think it is sad that really these days the only thing, or at least then, could unite us is pain. I don't think pain unites us anymore, because we're so we try to shut off from pain. We try to detach ourselves from pain.
We try to shame ourselves when we feel pain.
Yeah.
Like we shouldn't, like it's like a forbidden thing.
Yeah. And we don't want to see or confront the pain that exists around us because there's so much of it. And like what used to draw us together in some way has now completely driven us apart, you know? And that's just like, it's just the worst part of living in the time that we live in now, you know, where there are horrible things happening everywhere and there are people that use it to fuel like hateful narratives, or they use it to, you know, just not bring people together. They try to push people apart. And I think that is interesting because I think both of those films are fundamentally about empathy and compassion and what happens when we allow our lives to merge together and to feel through other people and to kind of live as like one entity. And I just think it's kind of sad that, I don't know, maybe 2006 was, like you said, the, I don't know, general state of the world at the time seemed to need something that was like reminding us of like the connectedness, interconnectedness of all people. And it's funny that that's kind of like dissipated, and that's not really a common.
I blame David Lynch.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah.
Honestly.
No.
But you did actually say something interesting about the Kate Blanchett thing and the body and all that kind of stuff, because I do think that her character is actually quite similar to Laura Dern in Inland Empire, because so much of her journey at the very beginning of the film, Nikki, who's the actress, she's also quite type A. Like, she lives in this really fancy house. She's quite prim and proper. She's very much like, she's very professional, quite direct, but in a very polite way. She just seems like quite like a lady that's got her shit together, you know? Like, this weird random old lady comes to her house and she starts saying weird things, and she's like, I don't like the way you're talking to me, like, you need to leave, you know? She's very like
your American accent is insane. It's so good.
Thank you. But yeah, you can kind of get quite a good sense of like what she's like. She's very like, I'm gonna work hard, like, I keep my boundaries clear in my professional personal life, like, I'm quite secretive, like, just type A. But then throughout the whole course of the film, it's her kind of like relinquishing control of not only her physical self, but like her inner world. It's like everything is like this like in this one like open territory, and that's when it all starts to like interconnect with the lives of all these other women that are connected to this story and connected to the pain of like being a woman and all this kind of stuff. And like her body like really goes through it as well. You know, she has like knives in her, she's like cut, she's like punched, beaten up. At the very end of the film, she's literally dying out on the middle of like the main like strip in LA, Sunset Boulevard or whatever, and she's, you know, had like needles in her, all this kind of stuff. Like, the physical self is really completely destroyed, and it's kind of through the destroying of the physical self that her almost like spiritual self or like inner self can like be released into this like other realm where it interacts with all these other narratives, where it like
and achieves unity.
Yeah, that's only through unity. So it's interesting that through pain, that's how collectiveness like comes together, you know?
It's interesting. I think a lot about pain, dude. I think it's such like a interesting cultural fixation that we have. And I wonder what humanity would be like if we were all immune to pain. Yeah. You know, if we couldn't feel pain.
Yeah.
That'd be an interesting Black Mirror episode.
Yeah. And it is also a weird thing that we do feel a certain sense of like pride over the amount of suffering that we have been through.
Oh my God,
like,
dude.
So many people, especially nowadays, like, people really like to like commodify their pain, and they use it as not like a kind of like silent, like, you know, thing where they've reflected privately about like how that pain has affected them. People use it to like sell themselves and to like use it for attention, use it to separate and make themselves bigger and better than other people. And it's really weird that like, I mean, you've spoken a lot about this in like your wrestling, like kind of bodybuilding videos and like more the bodybuilding stuff about like how pain is like a way that we achieve like pride of like how much can you suffer and like still come out the other side.
It's completely different, and I think you'll be able to relate from your previous schooling experience. My Mexican, I went to two film schools. One of them was in Mexico, and that one was like a musical conservatory in its like spirit, because we were like beaten down, we were bullied by the teachers and stuff, and the attitude that we students had towards each other was like, you came up to me and you were like, oh my God, bro, like, I barely slept last night. And I was like, well, I didn't sleep at all. You know, like, I got one over you because I'm in more pain, I'm suffering more, hence I'm more, I'm achieving more than you are.
Stronger.
Which sucks, dude. Like now, if I had my brain now and some like a peer came up to me and said like, "Oh my god, dude, I barely slept last night," I'd be like, "That sounds like a problem that you need to address."
That sucks. Yeah. Get some sleep. Yeah.
Yeah. That like the solution seems pretty clear to me.
Yeah. It's funny. I think people use pain as a way to focus more on themselves and like as an excuse to be more selfish. But like there's this quote from Annette Bening that I really love where she said, "I want to get to a point in my life where I've thought so much about myself that I don't have to think about myself anymore and I can purely focus on others." That's butchered the wording, but it's something along those lines of like I want to think about myself so much I can just focus on other people. And if anything is the purpose of pain, I mean, we shouldn't go into pain with like an agenda or whatever.
Sure.
To like, I don't know.
Yeah,
but like,
yeah.
if there is any purpose of pain, surely it is so that we can be more empathetic to other people and so we can let go of the self and bring in other people.
Yeah.
And I think, that just seems to be a really nice connecting point of both films. What happens when you don't learn that lesson from pain, and the people that retreat inwards as a result of pain, and the people that open themselves up outwards to the people around them as a result of pain.
Yeah.
And the goal should always be to widen ourselves and
to widen ourselves, to eat more.
But
that's a good point, and also like a nice little teaser about the next episode that we're going to be recording about thinking about oneself and thinking about one others.
Yeah.
So maybe we should leave it there.
Great segue.
Yeah.
You're a man of many mysteries.
We'll see you guys in a couple of weeks. But no, this was really fun, and I would be down to watch more Lynch with you if you wanted.
We need to have like a sleepover. You come around to my house, have some nice food, have some snacks, watch Inland Empire, smoke a little bit, get a bit silly, and just have a chat and a cry.
And just have a chat, yeah. And then we also have to I need to make you watch, I don't know.
Don't say Guntu. Don't say Guntu.
No, there's something else. I'll figure something out.
Yeah, you think on that one.